Welcome back to a new video. In this series, we explore the heroes and demigods. During the Age of Mortal Legends, after the gods had settled their rule, they interacted with mortals, leading to heroic myths. This video is about all the heroes and demigods we discussed in the last videos. We start off with Prometheus. Most people know Prometheus as the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. But Prometheus is more than a thief. He is rebellion, foresight, and sacrifice. He is the spark that ignites civilization, the rebel who dared to defy Olympus, and the eternal reminder that knowledge comes at a cost. Prometheus symbolizes fire and human progress. Prometheus didn't just steal fire, he gave humanity the means to survive, to cook, to forge, to dream. Fire was more than warmth. It was transformation. With it came tools, language, cities, everything that separates us from beasts. Prometheus gave us potential. He also symbolizes defiance and resistance. He stood against Zeus not for power, but for principle. When the gods chose domination, Prometheus chose compassion. He defied the order of the cosmos to elevate mortals, and paid the price. He teaches that rebellion, when righteous, can be divine. The last thing he symbolizes is foresight and responsibility. His name means forethought. Prometheus sees ahead, not just in time, but in consequence. He knew what his gift would cost. Still, he chose to give. His wisdom wasn't passive, it was active, daring, and deeply moral. Origins and family. Prometheus is a second-generation titan, the son of Iapetus and the Oceanid Clymene, or Themis, in some versions. His brothers include Epimetheus, Afterthought, Atlas, and Menoetius, all symbolic in their own ways. Unlike many titans who opposed Zeus in the Great War, Prometheus sided with the Olympians. But even allies can become adversaries. In time, he would become one of Zeus's greatest challengers. Prometheus in the world. Prometheus isn't a god of temples or thunderbolts. He is found in invention, in firelight, in every act of human creation. He lives in the forge, the laboratory, the library, wherever knowledge burns against the dark. He is not a ruler, but a guide. Not a king, but a kindling. Myths and stories involving Prometheus. Myth number 1, the theft of fire. In the most famous tale, Prometheus steals fire from Mount Olympus, sometimes from the forge of Hephaestus, sometimes from the chariot of the sun, and hides it in a hollow fennel stalk to give to humankind. It is an act of love. It is an act of war. And it changes everything. Myth number 2, the trick at Mycone. Earlier, Prometheus had already deceived Zeus at Mycone. He presented 2 sacrifices, one with good meat hidden in a foul wrapping, and another with bones wrapped in fat. Zeus chose the bones, and from then on, humans kept the meat, offering only inedible parts to the gods. It was a cunning insult, and Zeus did not forget. Myth number 3, the punishment. As punishment, Zeus had Prometheus bound to a rock, and every day, an eagle tore out his liver. Each night, it grew back. Eternal pain. Endless defiance. Prometheus endured in silence, until Heracles, generations later, shattered his chains. Even gods can't chain the truth forever. Worship and depiction. Prometheus was never worshipped in the grand temples of Olympus, but he was honored by philosophers, firekeepers, and revolutionaries. He was especially revered in Athens, where knowledge and civic freedom were sacred. In art, he appears thoughtful and muscular, often holding a torch or a spark. Sometimes, he is shown chained, his gaze still proud, even in pain. A martyr for the mind. The next one is Heracles. Most people know Heracles as the strongest hero in Greek mythology, the slayer of monsters, the breaker of chains. But Heracles is more than a muscle-bound warrior. He is struggle, redemption, and the search for peace in a world of chaos. He is the man who bore the weight of the world, and still kept walking. Heracles symbolizes strength and survival. Heracles is the embodiment of raw power, not just in body, but in spirit. He is strength that suffers, strength that endures. Not invincibility, but perseverance. He doesn't win because things are easy. He wins because he refuses to stop. He also symbolizes redemption through suffering. Heracles is a hero born from guilt. Driven mad by Hera, he killed his own wife and children, and to atone, he submitted to the impossible, 12 labors, each more brutal than the last. Every beast he faced was a shadow of himself. Each task was a step back toward humanity. He teaches that pain does not define you, what you do with it does. The last thing he symbolizes is mortality and apotheosis. Though a son of Zeus, Heracles was mortal. He bled. He broke. He wept. And yet, through trials and tragedy, he earned his place among the gods. He is proof that suffering can be sacred, that even a mortal can rise beyond fate. Origins and family. Heracles was born to Zeus and Alcmene, a mortal woman whose beauty rivaled the goddesses. Zeus disguised himself as her husband to conceive him, drawing Hera's eternal wrath. From infancy, Heracles was a target, snakes in his crib, curses in his mind. His name means glory of Hera, a cruel irony. But he wore it like armor. He was raised by mortals, trained by heroes, and tormented by gods. A demigod among men, too strong for this world, too flawed for Olympus. Heracles in the world. Heracles does not dwell in palaces or sanctuaries. He walks in battlefields, in wilderness, in places where chaos reigns. He is not polished like Apollo, nor clever like Odysseus. He is sweat, blood, and bare hands. His strength is not for ruling, but for enduring, for lifting others, even as he crumbles. He doesn't ask for worship. He asks for witness. Myths and stories involving Heracles. Myth number 1, the 12 labors. To atone for the murder of his family, Heracles was sent to serve King Eurystheus and complete 12 labors. He slew the Nemean lion, whose hide could not be pierced. He battled the Hydra, a serpent that grew 2 heads for each one cut. He captured the Ceryneian hind, the Erymanthian boar, the Stymphalian birds. He cleaned the Augean stables in a single day. He traveled to the ends of the earth, to steal girdles, drive cattle, fetch golden apples, and even descend into the underworld to bring back Cerberus. Each task was a trial of more than strength, it tested his resolve, his ingenuity, his soul. Myth number 2, Heracles and Atlas. In one of his labors, Heracles sought the golden apples of the Hesperides. He convinced Atlas, the titan holding up the sky, to fetch them, and for a time, Heracles bore the heavens on his shoulders. He held the weight of the cosmos. And when Atlas tried to trick him into keeping it, Heracles outwitted him, reminding us that strength and cleverness can coexist. Myth number 3, Heracles and Prometheus. Heracles found Prometheus bound to a rock, tormented by an eagle. He broke the chains. He slew the bird. In freeing Prometheus, he became not just a hero of strength, but of justice. He fought not only monsters, but cruelty. Worship and depiction. Heracles was worshipped across Greece and later Rome as Hercules. He was beloved not because he was perfect, but because he wasn't. He struggled. He fell. He rose again. He became a protector of athletes, laborers, and outcasts, anyone who carried a burden. In art, Heracles is almost always depicted with his lion skin cloak, his club, and sometimes a bow. His body is massive, but his eyes often weary. He is the hero who breaks and rebuilds. The third one is Perseus. Most people know Perseus as the slayer of Medusa, the hero who cut off the head of a monster and lived to tell the tale. But Perseus is more than a monster killer. He is cunning, courage, and the quiet grace of destiny unfolding. He is the shield that reflects danger, the sun who defies fate, and the first of the great Greek heroes to rise from nothing and become legend. Perseus symbolizes cleverness over brutality. Perseus is not a brawler, he's a thinker. He doesn't charge in with brute strength. He plans. He listens. He uses what he's given. His triumphs are not just of muscle, but of mind. He teaches that sometimes, looking away is braver than looking directly at the enemy. He also symbolizes fate and divine favor. Perseus is a hero guided by the gods, but not protected from pain. He is the product of prophecy, born to kill the king who feared him. From birth, his life is a thread pulled by unseen hands. Yet through grace and will, he takes control of that thread, and weaves a story of his own. The last thing he symbolizes transformation and legacy. Medusa was once beautiful. So was Andromeda's freedom. So was Perseus's youth. Everything in his story changes shape, from cursed heads to celestial stars. Perseus reminds us that nothing stays as it is. But with bravery, we can shape what comes next. Origins and family. Perseus was born of Danae, a mortal princess, and Zeus, who came to her as golden rain, slipping through a prison built to contain her womb and defy a prophecy. Her father, King Acrisius, feared the oracle that his grandson would kill him. So he cast Danae and baby Perseus into the sea in a wooden chest. But fate floats. They survived, and were taken in by a kind fisherman named Dictys on the island of Seriphos. Perseus grew up humble, unaware that the gods had more in store for him. Perseus in the world. Perseus isn't a wandering warrior or tragic outcast. He's a task-bound hero, set on a quest he never asked for, to save his mother from an unwanted king. Polydectes, the ruler of Seriphos, desired Danae and tricked Perseus into promising the impossible. Bring me the head of Medusa, the Gorgon whose gaze turns men to stone. Perseus accepted, not out of pride, but out of love. And the gods took notice. Myths and stories involving Perseus. Myth number 1, the slaying of Medusa. Medusa was once mortal, once lovely, until cursed by Athena. Her hair turned to snakes. Her face to terror. She and her 2 immortal sisters, Steno and Euryale, were unreachable until Perseus arrived. Guided by Hermes and Athena, he was given sacred tools. Winged sandals to fly. A reflective shield. A curved blade. And Hades' helm of invisibility. He did not fight Medusa face to face. He looked through the mirror of the shield, and struck while she slept. One clean cut. Her head, still deadly, was taken as a weapon, a curse-turned tool. Myth number 2, the rescue of Andromeda. On his journey home, Perseus found Andromeda, chained to a rock, offered to a sea monster to atone for her mother's pride. He slew the beast, saved the princess, and married her. But this was no damsel tale. Andromeda would become a queen, a mother of kings, and a constellation in her own right. Myth number 3, the fulfillment of prophecy. Years later, Perseus returned to Argos, and through an accident during a contest, struck his grandfather, King Acrisius, with a discus. The prophecy was fulfilled. But not with rage. Not with rebellion. Just fate, unfolding as it always does, quietly, irrevocably. Worship and depiction. Perseus was honored in myth more than in temple. He was remembered in stars, with the constellation Perseus glowing in the northern sky. He appears in art holding the head of Medusa, his shield polished like glass, his sword curved and gleaming. He is youthful, calm, determined, not angry like Achilles or wild like Heracles. His strength is silent. His glory, enduring. The fourth one is Theseus. Most people know Theseus as the slayer of the Minotaur, the hero who ventured into the maze and emerged victorious. But Theseus is more than a maze walker. He is change, choice, and the complex nature of heroism. He is the city builder, the self-made prince, and the flawed king who reminds us. Greatness often walks alongside shadow. Theseus symbolizes self-determination and identity. Unlike many heroes, Theseus chooses his path. He seeks out danger. He forges his name through trials. He teaches that becoming a hero isn't about fate, it's about action. He also symbolizes unity and civilization. Theseus is the founder of Athens as we know it, not with swords alone, but with vision. He brings tribes together, creates order from chaos, and shifts the mythic world towards civilization. Where Heracles is strength, Theseus is structure. The last thing he symbolizes is complex heroism. Theseus is not perfect. He leaves Ariadne behind. He makes mistakes. His greatness is real, but so is his failure. He teaches that heroes are human. That legacy is not purity, but depth. Origins and family. Theseus was born of two fathers, mortal Aegeus, king of Athens, and divine Poseidon, god of the sea. His mother, Aethra, was told by Aegeus to raise the child in secret. When Theseus was strong enough to lift a boulder and retrieve the sword and sandals hidden beneath it, he was to come to Athens and claim his heritage. He did. But not by sea, by land. And the land was dangerous. Theseus and the world. Theseus didn't wait for challenges to come to him. He sought them out. On his journey to Athens, he cleared the road of bandits and monsters, each a twisted mirror of justice gone wrong. Periphetes, the club-bearer. Cenes, who tore travelers apart. Procrustes, who forced guests to fit his bed by mutilation. Each was defeated with poetic irony. Theseus did not just survive. He rebalanced the scales. Myths and stories involving Theseus. Myth number 1, the Labyrinth and the Minotaur. In Athens, Theseus learned of a dreadful tribute. 7 young men and 7 maidens were sent every 9 years to be devoured by the Minotaur, a beast imprisoned in the Cretan labyrinth. Theseus volunteered to end the cycle. With the help of Ariadne, daughter of King Minos, he entered the maze, guided by a single thread. He found the monster. He fought in silence. He killed it, and returned, changing the fate of 2 cities. But he left Ariadne on the island of Naxos, abandoned. Why? The myths disagree. Some say Dionysus claimed her. Others say Theseus grew cold. Whatever the truth, the story gained cracks, and so did the man behind it. Myth number 2, the Black Sails. Before he left, Theseus promised his father Aegeus, "If I survive, I will return with white sails." But in joy, or in grief, he forgot. Seeing black sails on the horizon, Aegeus leapt into the sea, believing his son dead. The Aegean Sea bears his name to this day. And Theseus returned not as son, but as king. Myth number 3, Theseus and the Amazons. Theseus later abducted the Amazon queen Antiope, or Hippolyta, in some versions, and sparked a war. But from it, he gained a son, Hippolytus, a boy whose fate would one day be tangled in gods and tragedy. Theseus's rule was not peaceful. But it was memorable, rich in both greatness and grief. Worship and depiction. Theseus was worshipped in Athens not just as a hero, but as a founder. He symbolized unity, democracy, and the Athenian ideal, wise, brave, rational. His image was carved on temples and coins. In art, he appears young, strong, determined, with a short sword, a cloak, and often alongside the defeated Minotaur. He is not divine like Achilles, nor wild like Heracles. He is thoughtful, grounded, human. The 5th one is Jason, leader of the Argonauts. Most people know Jason as the man who captured the Golden Fleece, the captain who led Greece's greatest heroes across perilous seas. But Jason is more than a voyager. He is ambition, charm, and the burden of leadership. He is the man who brought a legend home and paid a mythic price for it. Jason symbolizes quest and leadership. Jason was not the strongest, not the fiercest, but he had vision. He gathered heroes, Heracles, Orpheus, Atalanta, and more, and united them with purpose. He teaches that leadership is not about power. It's about direction, unity, and daring to begin. He also symbolizes fate and fragility. Jason is chosen by prophecy, favored by gods. But unlike many heroes, his story does not end in triumph. He wins the prize, but loses everything. He reminds us that glory is fleeting, and that even victors can fall. the last thing he symbolizes is love and betrayal. Jason's greatest ally is also his greatest tragedy, Medea. With her magic, he succeeds. Without her love, he crumbles. Their story is a warning that the heart, when betrayed, can become myth's sharpest blade. Origins and family. Jason was the son of Ezon, rightful king of Iolcus. But his uncle Peleus stole the throne. To protect Jason, his mother sent him away to be raised by the centaur Chiron, wise and wild. Years later, Jason returned, grown, calm, determined. Peleus, fearing a prophecy that warned of a man wearing one sandal, recognized his fate. He told Jason, "You may have the throne, if you bring me the golden fleece." Jason agreed. Not because it was safe, but because it was his story to tell. Jason and the world. Jason did not walk alone. He built a crew, the Argonauts, and sailed aboard the Argo, a ship guided by Athena and blessed with a speaking prow. Their journey was not a straight line. It was full of monsters, trials, and moral tests. They faced the Harpies, who tormented a blind prophet; the clashing rocks, which could crush a ship to splinters; the Amazons, fierce and free; the Isle of Lemnos, where no men remained. But Jason pressed on. To Caucasus, and to fate. Myths and stories involving Jason. Myth number 1, Jason and Medea. In Caucasus, the Golden Fleece was guarded by a sleepless dragon and impossible tasks set by King Aeetes. Jason could not win alone. Enter Medea, the king's daughter. A sorceress. A priestess of Hecate. She fell in love with Jason and betrayed her father for him. With her magic, Jason yoked fire-breathing bulls, sowed dragon's teeth that became warriors, slew the serpent, and took the fleece. They fled together, a prince and a witch, bound by love and blood. Myth number 2, the return and revenge. Back in Iolcus, Peleus refused to surrender the throne. Medea, furious, tricked his daughters into killing him, believing they could restore him to youth. It worked. But Jason was exiled for the crime. They went to Corinth. And here, the tragedy began. Myth number 3, Jason and the fall. In Corinth, Jason sought power. He abandoned Medea to marry the king's daughter. But Medea was no ordinary woman. She cursed the bride. She destroyed the throne. And in one of myth's darkest turns, she killed her own children, Jason's sons, to leave him with nothing. Jason lived on, but hollow. One version says he died old and alone, crushed by a rotting beam of the Argo, the very ship that once made him immortal. Worship and depiction. Jason was never deified like Heracles. But he was remembered as a tragic hero, a flawed leader, a man who reached too far. In art, he is youthful, regal, always near the fleece or the prow of the Argo. In some images, Medea stands beside him. In others, she's already vanished. He is not divine. Not monstrous. Just human, breathtakingly, heartbreakingly human. The next one is Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War. Most people know Achilles as the invincible hero with one fatal weakness, the man who raged, fought, and died young. But Achilles is more than a warrior. He is wrath, brilliance, and the tragic price of glory. He is the fire that burns too bright to last, the hero who teaches us. Immortality is not about living forever. It's about being remembered. Achilles symbolizes heroic excellence, arete. Achilles was the best, the fastest, strongest, deadliest of all the Greeks. He embodied the ideal of Aristea, that moment of unmatched brilliance in battle. But with greatness came pride. And with pride, downfall. He also symbolizes wrath and honor. More than anything, Achilles stands for rage. Not random fury, but righteous, consuming, personal. When his honor was wounded, the world burned. He reminds us that anger can be both a weapon and a wound. The last thing he symbolizes is mortality and meaning. Achilles was given a choice. Live a long, quiet life, or die young, and be remembered forever. He chose the blaze. And in doing so, he became legend. Origins and family. Achilles was the son of the sea nymph Thetis and the mortal king Peleus. At his birth, Thetis tried to make him immortal. In some myths, by dipping him in the river Styx. She held him by the heel. And so, one spot remained mortal, vulnerable. Raised by the wise centaur Chiron, Achilles was fed lion hearts and taught divine arts. His companion, some say his soulmate, was Patroclus. Together, they shared boyhood, battlefield, and fate. Achilles and the world. When the Trojan War began, a prophecy warned that without Achilles, Troy could not fall. But Thetis knew his fate and hid him on the island of Scyros, disguised as a girl. Still, he was found. Drawn not by duty, but destiny. He joined the war. And from the moment he arrived, everything changed. Myths and stories involving Achilles. Myth number 1, the wrath of Achilles. In the Iliad, the heart of Achilles' story is his anger. When Agamemnon stole Briseis, a woman given to Achilles as a war prize, Achilles withdrew from battle. Without him, the Greeks faltered. He watched as his comrades died. And did nothing. Until one death broke him. Myth number 2, Patroclus and the turning point. Patroclus, wearing Achilles' armor, entered the fight in his place. He died at the hands of Hector, prince of Troy. And Achilles shattered. His grief became fury. His rage returned to the battlefield like a storm unleashed. He killed Hector. He dragged his body for days. Not out of strategy, but sorrow. Myth number 3, Achilles' death. Soon after, fate came for Achilles. Some say Paris fired the arrow. Others say it was guided by Apollo, straight to his heel. The one part of him still human. He died young. But his name lived. Odysseus said he saw Achilles in the underworld. A restless shade, who would trade all his fame to walk the earth again. Because even the brightest flame fears the dark. Worship and depiction. Achilles was honored as a hero, and later, as a god. In places like Scyros and Epirus, he was worshipped with sacrifices. In Troy, even his enemies mourned him. In art, Achilles is shown young and golden, a warrior with lion's courage and storm in his eyes. Sometimes with a spear, sometimes with a lyre. Always torn between peace and war. Flesh and fate. The last one is Odysseus, king of Ithaca, architect of the Trojan horse, and the hero of the long return. Most people know Odysseus as the clever one, the man of many twists and turns. But Odysseus is more than a trickster. He is longing, resilience, and the quiet ache of home. He is the voice that whispers. Even the clever must suffer. Even the brave must wait. Odysseus symbolizes intelligence and strategy. Where Heracles had strength, Odysseus had cunning. He won wars not with brute force, but with riddles, disguises, and schemes. He teaches that intelligence, even more than might, shapes the fate of men. He also symbolizes endurance and perseverance. The Trojan War lasted 10 years. Odysseus's return took 10 more. He suffered storms, monsters, gods, and temptation, and kept going. He shows us that the journey is not always heroic. Sometimes, it's just survival. The last thing he symbolizes is home and identity. Through every trial, Odysseus longed for one thing. Ithaca, his rocky island, his wife Penelope, and the life he left behind. He reminds us that no matter how far we stray, home is the compass we follow. Even when the map is torn. Origins and family. Odysseus was the son of Laertes and Anticlea, and the husband of the ever-faithful Penelope. They had one son, Telemachus, born just before Odysseus was called to war. He ruled Ithaca, a modest island, with a sharp mind and a cautious heart. He tried to avoid the Trojan War, faking madness to escape the oath he'd made. But he was clever. And cleverness can be seen through. He went to Troy. And his fate unfolded. Odysseus and the world. In Troy, Odysseus wasn't just a fighter, he was a force. He came up with the plan for the Trojan horse, the ruse that ended the war. But victory did not mean peace. The gods were watching, and some, like Poseidon, were not pleased. Odysseus's journey home became a trial of the soul. And every island, every storm, every choice changed him. Myths and stories involving Odysseus. Myth number 1, the Cyclops. On one island, Odysseus and his men were trapped by the giant Polyphemus, son of Poseidon. Odysseus blinded him to escape, and gave his name as nobody. But pride undid him. As he sailed away, he shouted his true name. Polyphemus cursed him. And Poseidon answered. Myth number 2, Circe and the Year of Forgetting. He landed next on the island of Circe, a powerful sorceress. She turned his men into pigs, but Odysseus, with Hermes' help, resisted. Circe became his lover and guide. He stayed for a year of warmth and forgetting. But home still called. Myth number 3, the Sirens and the Scylla. He faced the Sirens, whose song lured sailors to their deaths. Odysseus had himself tied to the mast, and heard their song without succumbing. He passed Scylla and Charybdis, a 6-headed monster and a deadly whirlpool. He lost men. He kept going. Myth number 4, Calypso and the Island of Immortality. Shipwrecked and alone, he washed ashore on Ogygia, where the nymph Calypso loved him. She offered him eternal life, paradise. But he refused. He chose Penelope. He chose Ithaca. He chose being mortal. If it meant being home. Worship and depiction. Odysseus was not worshipped like a god. But he was remembered endlessly. He appears in pottery, epic, and tragedy. He wears no lion skin, no shining armor, only a cloak, a mind, and the weight of longing. He is often shown weary, but determined. A man who has seen too much, and yet still hopes. A hero not of brute force, but of will. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's another hero, goddess, or myth you'd like us to explore, let us know in the comments.